how would you say neurodivergence showed up in your life?
Yeah, I think it's there in those stories, and I think that it really came to a head in meeting my husband David and seeing him interact in Hawaii, and also in college. We were in college together because conversations always became so natural to him. He connected with people easy, and in watching him communicate with others, it it felt almost like a scientist in some ways because I was studying him, watching him interact with strangers, and he would make these incredibly deep and strong connections with people almost instantly. And so I found myself doing is I would hear him say a question to somebody, and rather than I would almost like make a mental note of, well, that's a great question to ask somebody. Let me try that sometime. And so I think that, I guess to answer your question is like, it's always been something in my life that I've always felt neurologically different than others, felt separated from my peers. But it wasn't until I was an adult and had been exposed to a variety of different individuals across the world that I realized everyone operates a little bit differently, but you have been exposed to so many different people and cultures that you can take the best of it. You can study it like a scientist and you can ingest it and you can practice and you can push yourself and you can get better at the social aspect, I guess.
I couldn't agree more. I found myself trying to, and I think successfully, befriending very, very popular people, people that were either very popular or very, very smart or very, very beautiful. They all skewed one way or another, and I actually have a whole episode on this called "Learning to Love Your Monsters." But I gravitated towards those people, and then I would like replicate at a robotic level what they were doing because I saw it was like this
Exactly.
clearly is working. Like
It's
this
working.
did like men throw themselves at this person's feet. That would be great as a single woman. And and so it's interesting to see some of those similarities, right? When you find that playbook or you find almost like a loving ambassador in the form of your sister and now your husband. And then you get to try those things out for yourself and see, like, okay, does this form of small talk work? Does this type of eye contact or this handshake resonate with people? And I think that's something that neurotypical to people don't appreciate enough and is just like how much practice and intentionality can go into those interactions and the level of study that can result as we try to fit in with our peers and family.
Yeah, exactly. I think that, when I first joined in Hawaii, I was working inside a classroom, and there was a distinct moment where I would come home from work and I would just be absolutely exhausted. And I'd had other peers that would teach and they would be rejuvenated. Or,
Hmm.
like, not to say that teachers, and educators don't get tired at the end of the day. Absolutely, 100%. That is the case. It's very hard work. But I would come home and, I think that's where being in a relationship with somebody who wasn't born or, didn't grow up with you, wasn't born, you know, with you, that it became apparent to me because my husband would say things like, it's like you're a shell, like you're not really here, like I really just need a lot of time to decompress. And I realized that I was acting when I was teaching. I wasn't just teaching, I was also going through the motion of having to act to be super engaging and connecting with my students. And it was like I was putting on this different persona of how I thought a teacher should be on top of actually doing the teaching as well. And so it almost felt like that old adage of like, with, I don't know, was it Fred Astaire and Jen? Oh man, I'm gonna get this wrong. But they like quote of like, was it Ginger Rogers? Somewhere. Anyways, like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, she was saying like, I'm as good of a dancer as him basically because I have to do everything he does but backwards, right? And
Hmm.
so it felt a little bit like that. Like I had to not only do the teaching as well as other teachers, I had to also act as well.
The masking can be very, very exhausting. And especially with loved ones, when you can take that mask off, you feel safe enough to unmask and stop acting the exhaustion that our loved ones get to observe in us and they're like, "Oh gosh, like, couldn't you be normal like you were 2 hours ago?" I've never heard that quote before, but it definitely makes
Look,
sense.
I did not get that right, and I'll please look it up. But I think that that's often how that's as soon as I, got out of college and got that close contact with a loved one who again didn't grow
Mhm.
with me. That's what I started. He started pointing out to these things that I just assumed were just how everyone felt. And well, I think a lot of people feel that way. I don't think it's true for everyone. And so, like, oh, you might be onto something there.